Ooh, suddenly soundtracks are here to provide you. Suddenly soundtracks will show you care. Oh, be more the soundtrack inside you with sweet understanding. Oh, with sweet understanding. With sweet understanding. Soundtracks are your friend. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special episode of Suddenly Soundtracks, the show on Take 3 where we go through a musical, song by song, and judge a movie solely based on its soundtrack. First, we will dissect the entire movie, song by song, and give our rating of each song out of 10. Then we will rank each song from worst to best, then give an overall average of our scores. In the end, my final verdict will be given, and it will either be not rockin', scratched disc, one-time listen, download the soundtrack, or rockin' for the best of the best. I am joined by a very special guest. You know her from the Schmodown, you know her from Film Therapy and 6 Degrees on YouTube, Miss Movies herself, Brianne Chandler. How you doing, Brianne?
I am doing quite well, and yes, I always love it when someone introduces as Miss Movies herself. So it's just a trend. It's a trend that keeps going.
It's a great name though. Miss Movies it's pretty catchy. We're going to do this is part of our Christmas marathon here on Take 3, talking about Christmas musical movies. And this is your favorite movie, right? Your favorite musical of all time, White Christmas?
This is my favorite. White Christmas is my favorite musical of all time. It's my number 3 favorite movie of all time. So it ranks up there pretty high for me.
Yeah, this one is a gem. White Christmas is directed by Michael Kuritz, and Irving Berlin does the music for this movie. And man, this musical is like one of those 50s musicals that just stick with you, like South Pacific, Sound of Music. It's a very classical cabaret kind of musical. And let's dig right into this. This is, ladies and gentlemen, White Christmas, released in 1954.
Song. Nothing but bluebirds, bluebirds all day long. Bing and Danny are bringing you a bonus of holiday cheer early this year with the music, the magic of one of the greatest entertainment hits of all time. Bing and Danny in a joyous show business story of a couple of guys who have made good and now want to make better. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
So the film starts off on Christmas Eve of 1944. There's a lot of war going on, but the men in the army are watching this show by Bob and Phil, who are played by Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye. And they're performing this version of White Christmas with the arrangement of a music box.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
I like that they used it very simply in this film. And this was not the first time that White Christmas was ever sung in a movie musical before. This is
wasn't.
the second time. The first time was in Holiday Inn.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
Which, if you've seen Holiday Inn with Bing Crosby, it very much mirrors a lot of what happens later in this film. In terms of like being at the inn, the Vermont Inn and the Holiday Inn look exactly almost alike. But anyways, so White Christmas,
tidbit,
I love that it starts off with it. So it's like we're not waiting to hear the song. We get it right away. And I like that it's a little bit of a simpler version than you see later.
Yeah, and when you get the bookend at the end, it just makes this entire movie wrap around in a great big bow, and it's fantastic. White Christmas, this introduction, I actually prefer to the later version because I like how simplistic the instrumentation is. It's just Ben Crosby singing his classic to basically a music box kind of piano, and it's a very interesting arrangement, and I love it to death. Out of curiosity, we're gonna rate this sucker. What do you rate White Christmas out of 10, Brianne?
I'll give it a 10.
As do I. It's a perfect Christmas song and introduction to a musical. So during that song, the just retired General Waverly, played by Dean Jagger, the great Dean Jagger, arrives and sees the performance.
Then, after that song completes, Bob and Phil realize that Waverly is in the audience, and they go into this marching army kind of chant called The Old Man.
We'll follow the old man wherever he wants to go, long as he wants to go, opposite to the foe. We'll stay with the old man wherever he wants to stay, long as he stays away from the battle's fray.
The Old Man is a song that I feel like I want to know who in the army like decided to teach everyone that. Like I have a lot of questions about this song. Like who was it? Was it Bing Crosby's character, or was it Bob? Who was it? Or did they already come in knowing this? Like, was this something that just kind of was a song that people would sing?
It sounds like it's like one of those songs they would probably sing in the trenches when they're out at war or something. But the fact of the matter is, The Old Man, I get it, because at the end, all of a sudden, all these guys know this very specific choreography on the stage, and it's this whole musical feels like a stage production, so to speak.
Right. And have you seen the stage production?
Yeah, actually, my high school did a stage production like 2 years ago after I graduated. It was great. And this film really works well for the stage because there's a lot of long takes, a lot of set pieces that look like it's just being performed live in front of you. And this song in particular just meshes with that theme, and you can take some of the questionable logic out of how they knew it out of the equation when you realize that it all just feels like a cohesive stage piece, if that makes sense.
It does feel like a cohesive stage piece because
Indeed, it does.
Back then it seemed everything was done on set back then, so that's probably why. But
yep. Oh yeah, and I actually like that kind of quality the 50s and 60s movies had because of that. All right, The Old Man. Let's give this a ranking out of 10, Brianne. What do you give The Old Man?
I give this one of my lower rankings, which is a 7, which is very low.
It's low. It's low, and actually, I actually love the reprise at the end. But I actually really like the Army March. I gave it a 9 because I really kind of think it sticks in your head, and that's one of the qualities I like in a musical. If something sticks in your head, and the march stuck in my head, so gave that thing a 9. All right, then after that, Phil kind of saves Bob from this falling wall that he kind of takes advantage of very periodically throughout the rest of the film, and after he saves his life, Phil kind of offers to Bob to join him as a duo after the war ends. Bob agrees, and we're greeted to this medley montage of songs that kind of, what do you call it, establish that they are now a success, that Phil and Bob are now a successful duo in the industry, to this medley montage of Heat Wave, Let Me Sing and I'm Happy and Blue Skies.
Hey, hip, hip. They're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. Well, now the temperature's rising, it isn't surprising, they certainly can. Let me sing a funny song with crazy words that roll along. Hey, bluebird, singing a song. Nothing but bluebirds all day long.
This montage, there's not really a lot to discuss with this little montage, but because you only get little pieces of these songs throughout sprinkled with score. And I feel like this montage in particular could have benefited from us hearing more of those songs.
I feel like the montage itself could have benefited from seeing more of the production behind them, because we know they have a lot of people that they're in charge of, which we don't really see until later. And I don't know if that was supposed to be like a reveal of, oh, we have all these people that work with us, but it seemed
come
like
out of nowhere at the end of the movie. They really do.
Sure. And so I just felt like we were missing the big production pieces that we should be seeing along with other. I mean, it's fine to do a medley, but I feel like we should see their dancers and their orchestra and other things like that.
Because you don't really see that until the girls come in. And I feel like establishing that they had that before the girls came in would have been better. I also feel like some of these songs sound really good, but you only hear like little bits of it. I'm unsure of this.
Right.
Are these like standards that Bing Crosby sung in his live shows, or is this like certain songs written for the actual film? I'm not sure.
You know, I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. So I do know, like, out of the 3 songs, I really only gravitate towards Heat Wave and Blue Skies. Obviously, Blue Skies being the more commercial song.
Yeah. Blue Skies, you hear a lot. It's a standard,
But the Let Me Sing and I'm Happy is
I don't
not
remember that. Like, it's kind of forgettable.
Remember.
Anyway, this montage works in the film as a transition piece, but as for the soundtrack itself, I have to say it's kind of forgettable. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Brianne, what did you give the montage?
I gave this montage a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
So again, on my lower end.
Of course. It's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. I just feel like it's forgettable a little bit, and it does its job in the film. But then we go from an unmemorable song to the complete opposite. A song called Sisters.
Sisters, sisters, there were never such devoted sisters. Never had to have a chaperone, no sir. I'm here to keep my eye on her.
As far as the most well-known song from this movie, definitely Sisters would be second. It's not necessarily my next in my lineup. Like later, I know we're gonna go through and say like our top to bottom. So it's not my second in that top to bottom list. But
this song essentially establishes Betty, who is played by Rosemary Clooney, and Judy, who is played by Vera Ellen. And these are the 2 love interests to Bob and Phil that you see throughout the film. And this is where they first meet them, at their cabaret kind of show in this lounge. And it really establishes that they work well together, they're beautiful, and they can sing. That's all you need from this song, and it does its job. The song itself is super, super catchy. And it really sticks with you even after the movie is ended, because this is in the first act of the movie. You have like 8 other songs after it, and it's still the song that stuck in my head the most. And there's a reason, because there's a really, really good reason why when we get to it. But Sisters, I give this a 10 out of 10. I love this song to death, and it's super catchy. Brianne, what did you give Sisters?
I also give Sisters a 10 out of 10. I also sing this with my sister plenty of times, as well as with my online sister, Leanne Licauder. I don't know how to say her last name, but we definitely say this to each other, especially when the holiday is coming.
So after Sisters ends, we're greeted to what they the four of them begin to bond. Well, two of them begin to bond, two of them don't. The two that begin to bond are Phil and Judy. Phil and Judy. Sorry, I get Judy and Betty mixed up. Phil and Judy really bond, and they go into another room and start to slow dance on this patio. And a song entitled "The Best Things Happen When You're Dancing" happens, and this song is very interesting. This song, more than any other song in the film, feels like a stage show.
The best things happen while you're dancing. Things that you would not do at home come naturally on the floor.
Like, I know there are the cabaret numbers we get to, but those are supposed to be stage show numbers. This song in particular just feels like a stage play show. You get like a 2-minute break, which is just them dancing, and it's a really, really nice duet, and it really captivates the whole cabaret kind of theme throughout this entire film. Brianne, what are your thoughts on "The Best Things Happen While You're Dancing"?
The best things happen while you're dancing. I find that this is probably the first one that really shows that it is a musical, and why I say that is because the other ones, like you said, are performing for people in the film, so that's a little bit different. This is where it takes that break and is now like, now we're performing for ourselves. So I really like all the dancing that they do and the use of props and the kind of a little bit of comedy at the very end when
they
he like
stop
dips
and
her.
she sees her, yeah.
Exactly.
What is this, the best 2 out of 3?
It's what you would do in that situation. Like, what the hell are you doing? You're out here dancing and doing your jigs, and is what it is. It's the magic of movies. What do you give "The Best Things Happen While You're Dancing," Brianne?
I give "The Best Things Happen While You're Dancing" an 8 out of 10.
Really? I actually gave it a 9 out of 10. We're just like one off from each other. I love this song too. Great set piece, great duet, great dancing. It fits the theme of the movie, bar none, and it's great. And then you get okay. This is actually I put this as the reprise of Sisters. This is the reprise of Sisters. Technically, they're lip syncing to the pre-recorded version of the first Sisters that we saw, but this needs to be mentioned. In 1954, drag was really not considered as acceptable as it is now. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
it wasn't
not.
really considered acceptable. And this song really blows your mind because it's actually Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye in 1950s sort of drag. They're dressing up as the sisters, and the audience is loving it, and it's really, really hilarious.
Sisters, sisters, there were never such devoted sisters. Never had to have a chaperone, no sir. I'm here to keep my eye on her.
I don't know if I would qualify this as full drag because they're not wearing wigs, they're not wearing their dresses. They have their accessories to show, and they like kind of change their appearance a little bit. But I do really enjoy this, and I love that they are genuinely laughing while they're doing it as well, because you can tell that they're playing it up. I know Danny Kaye was like cracking up at the end, which is great.
I actually feel like that laughter was genuine, and it was great. I don't know what the proper term would be. They're dressing up as the women.
I don't know, semi
drag. It's fine. Either way, it's fantastic. Drag is awesome, so it's great. One of my favorite musicals is Rocky Horror, and it's fantastic.
Of course.
But so this little reprise of Sisters, what do you give it, Brianne?
I give the reprise of Sisters also a 10 out of 10.
Okay, yeah. Same thing with me too, because basically it's just the version of Sisters that you heard earlier, with a very interesting set piece, and it's cute, it's great, it's awesome. All right, and then you're introduced to them, this little I would say this is one of the weaker parts of the movie, this whole landlord sequence, because
Right.
they never come back to it. It's just an action set piece to get them to Vermont. So the landlord is looking for the two girls because apparently they lit something on fire and they owe him like $200. So Phil and Bob help them escape, and they wind up on this train car. And Bob reluctantly agrees that everybody should go to Vermont and experience the snow.
Snow, snow,
Snow, snow,
snow. It won't be long before we'll all be there with snow.
snow, snow. I want to wash my hands, my face, and hair with snow.
Snow as a quartet is probably one of my top songs. I think it's because it's all four of the characters coming together to sing this song about where they're going to be going and what they're going to be doing in Vermont. And so I like that. I just like that they're together. I like that it's on a train car. I like trains. I don't know.
Trains are better than planes. They're more relaxing.
So, and I really want to know more about the train too, because I don't really understand how the sleeping car works and how the drawing room works and all that, because I don't get that, but I need to research a little bit more on that. Anyways, I like snow.
And they could have, So Snow is really cute too. It's a very great. It feels like one of those doo-wop numbers from like the 50s and 60s, except there is instrumentation behind it.
And this is the only one that they all four sing, because later she dances. Vera Ellen dances, but Vera Ellen isn't actually singing in this, but her character is singing.
Oh, so she's overdubbed by somebody when she sings.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's awesome. The thing is, you make up a good point. This is one of the only songs, you're right, that all four of them sing. I think White Christmas, all four of them sing, and then the last song, But until the finale, not all four of them don't really sing together. And this is the moment where you get that, and it's very, very cute. The song is very, very poignant because it sets up their hopes and dreams for the finale when the snow actually comes. So you get that impact from this song in particular. So with that in mind, Snow gets 9 out of 10 for me. I like it a lot. Brianne, what do you give Snow?
For Snow, I give it a 10 out of 10.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Yeah. It is a fantastic song, and all four of them have great harmonies, and it sounds terrific. And the set piece is great too, because they're in this kind of diner on the train, and it's really, really well shot.
Right.
Then they get to the hotel, and in one of the most coincidental, circumstantial things ever, General Waverly, of all people, owns the hotel that they're staying at in Vermont. And then we get into the main plot of the movie, where the hotel is failing, and they want to bring their show to the hotel to get people to come and make the hotel a success. And their first dress rehearsal is shown in its entirety.
I'd rather see a minstrel show than any other show I know. All those comical folks with their riddles and jokes.
When I first saw White Christmas, I had no idea what a minstrel show was. So my mom educated me on what it was, and I'm glad that they didn't actually do that. Their tambourines, though, do have faces on them. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, they do? Wow.
Yeah, they do have faces. And so knowing that now, I'm like, it's probably not really that appropriate for the times current, but back then makes sense.
I mean, it's the 50s. You can forgive some sort of stuff like that.
And it's not, I don't find that what they're singing about offensive.
No, it feels very buttercup kind of fun, jolly. The problem I have with this song is it goes on a little too long. I feel like the Mandy portion, where she's just dancing, the Mandy portion is the only part that slogs a little bit. It's a great showpiece.
Mandy, 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 there's a minister handy, and it sure would be dandy if we had to make a peace. So don't you
But it That's what it is. It's a dress rehearsal showpiece, and it really does nothing else for the actual plot. It's beautiful.
Right.
It's a great song. Mandy is the thing that brings it down for me. The first part, Mr. Bones in particular, I really like.
Mr. Bones, Mr. Bones, how do you feel, Mr. Bones?
Rattling.
Mr. Bones feels rattling, ha ha. That's a good one. Tell a little story, Mr. Bones.
A funny little story, Mr. Bones.
When it gets to Mandy, it loses its luster and it kind of fizzles out a little bit. So for me, this little dress rehearsal, I'm giving an 8 out of 10 at knocking 2 points off from Mandy. What do you give it, Brianne?
I also gave it an 8 out of 10, and I also like the Mr. Bones part. But there is something about it that just doesn't quite hit that 10 mark for me.
Yeah, so. No musical is perfect. And Mandy is one of those moments where I feel like it could have been nixed, cut down a bit. But you know what? Still a solid song. Then after the dress rehearsal, Bob and Betty begin to finally bond. And he takes her aside and he sings this very, very poignant and lovely number, Count Your Blessings Instead of Sheep, where basically Bob is telling Betty that no matter what you dream about, the people you have around you, everything that you have, you should be thankful for.
When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep.
I like the lead up to Count Your Blessings Instead of Sheep. I find their little banter before that is really great. I do like certain parts of this song, like the when my bankroll is getting small, I think of when I had none at all.
Very good lyrics.
But I love it, but I gave it an 8. So
okay. So what I'm gonna give Count Your Blessings Instead of Sheep 9.5 out of 10.
Wow,
fantastic on all cylinders.
I don't think I really have any 9s. Hold on, let me look through. Nope, no 9s. Apparently,
No 9s.
apparently I have some issues. It's either 10 or 8.
It's either
or
10
7.
or 8. But it's all good. After that song is when we get Betty and Bob their first kiss. Waverly then gets a letter saying that he's kind of not accepted back into the army, which again gives more motivation to Bob to try to help this place out and bring people in. And he makes a call out to his friend Ed Harrison to promote it on a show in New York. One problem. Emma, the housekeeper of the inn, eavesdrops only a portion of it, and there's this whole misunderstanding between Bob and Betty that again, I kind of wish that they kind of just said what they were saying right away, because none of this misunderstanding would have happened. That she thought that the eavesdropping made it seem like Bob was taking advantage of Waverly and putting the morale of the actual show in jeopardy in Betty's eyes.
Right.
So after this misunderstanding, we kind of cut away from the story that you're invested in into what I think is the weakest song of the movie, Choreography.
Chaps who did taps aren't tapping anymore. They're doing choreography.
I like choreography, and one of the reasons I like it is because of the dance aspect, not necessarily the song. That's not what I remember it for. I remember it for Vera Ellen and her tapping skills and the her incredible leg and how it can move as quickly as it can. I've never seen anything like that. So I like this because I find that in dance is a very important piece of maybe even history. There's a few movies where you're like, you don't even remember anything, like White Knights or whatever with Baryshnikov. It's like, well, I don't really know much about that movie aside from Gregory Hines is in it, but I know that Baryshnikov does an 11 rotation pirouette in it, and like that's never been seen before. So this is one of those moments where it's like she's tapping so quickly with that one leg. It's just like, how can you forget this song choreography because of what she's able to do tap wise? So
it's unforgettable. That portion where she has where her toe is pretty much like a woodpecker is unrealistically awesome. The only problem is for me is the song itself kind of flounders a little bit, and it takes away from the action that I kind of just want them to get on with the movie, and it has really nothing else to do but to show you the dance number. That's the only problem I really have with it, so I'm giving choreography a 7 out of 10. It's my least favorite of the movie. What do you give it, Brianne?
I give it an 8 out of 10.
That's great.
That's my standard.
It's great to have differing opinions. It's awesome. It's movies. It's movies. It's movies. It's movies. And then you get this whole plot where Phil and Judy fake a engagement, and they realize that Betty and Bob are not on good terms, and they try to get them back together through this dance number at this party where they reprise the best things that happen while you're dancing.
Come out all right if the girl is sweet. If by chance their cheeks should meet while they're dancing.
Which is a very strange reprise. It's very short.
I do like how they, push them together for dancing, but they do it so slyly. It's kind of fun.
It does its job. It's quick. It's funny. It's cute. Nowhere near as involved as its first predecessor. So this reprise is cute. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. What do you give this reprise, Brianne?
Once again, my standard, which is 8 out of 10.
It's a cute little sequence. Nothing more than that. It does its job though, and it furthers the plot. And then you're whisked back into the dress rehearsal with. This is a hard one to really judge on soundtrack because it's an instrumental piece, and I didn't put it in my ranking, but we can talk about it. It's the little tap number Abraham. This one is interesting because in the actual Holiday Inn movie that Brianne was alluding to earlier, this song isn't an instrumental, and it's sung by somebody in blackface. And yeah, it's very cringe, and when it's aired on TV, like on AMC or something, they usually cut that scene out, and for very, very good reason.
Upon a February morning, a tiny baby boy was born, Abraham.
Thank God that's not in this movie. And we got a tap number instrumentation instead, which just makes me happy inside. Brianne, taking the version of Holiday Inn out of the equation, what are your thoughts on the White Christmas tap dance version of Abraham?
I put it in my ranking, and it's my lowest ranked of all, which is a 6. But I find the dancing to be pretty incredible. So I just think when I think of this movie, I don't think of this song. So I think that's probably why, and it's probably because it doesn't have any words. But who knows?
For Abraham, I guess I'm gonna go with the same score as choreography. 7 out of 10. Does nothing really for me, but is what it is. It's a tap number, and it fills up time, which I don't really feel like the movie needed. It didn't need padding. It's there, and we can enjoy it. It's fun. The vocal version in Holiday Inn with the blackface can just go to hell. After that, Phil follows Betty to New York, and he sees her perform this song, Love, You Didn't Do Right By Me.
Love, you didn't do right by me. You planned a romance that just hadn't a chance, and I'm through.
It kind of hits home. It hits every cylinder that she feels towards Bob at this moment, because from her POV, she looks at him as an opportunist. And a betrayer, and somebody who hurt her and took advantage of her talents. And this song kind of hits all of those notes very poignantly, and it's actually very beautiful too.
Love, You Didn't Do Right By Me is one of my favorites, and she tries to get out of it, and she's talking to the owner, and is like, let me do this song, let me do that song. And he's like, no, this is going to play well. I always love that.
It's great.
And I don't feel like he followed her to New York, because I think he was going to New York to be on the Ed Harrison show. So it was just kind of worked out.
It was very circumstantial.
Right. I think had she not been in New York, he probably would have gone wherever she was to see her. But it seems like, where else would you go from Vermont, right?
Yeah.
That just kind of as a singer, you're not going to go to Maine. So it just seems like the right place to go for her. Yeah, I give this one a 10 out of 10. Now, if you look up the soundtrack to White Christmas, Rosemary Clooney does not sing on the soundtrack, which is really disappointing to me, because at the time, I believe she had a contract with, I want to say, not Paramount, it was like Columbia Records or something. Wow. And so Columbia was like, you can sing in the movie, but you cannot sing on the soundtrack that they release. So they wouldn't let her voice be on it.
In fact, Rosemary Clooney recorded her own album and re-recorded each song that she sung on White Christmas as her own separate album, which was released literally the same day as the White Christmas soundtrack. So that was the studio politics back in the day. As Brianne said earlier, I will also be giving this a 10 out of 10.
You wouldn't think a Christmas movie would have this kind of cabaret, kind of 50s style. It does, and it works beautifully. It's great. So after the song, they begin to talk again, and she sort of, you kind of get the idea that she kind of is warming up to him again. But before he can explain anything in typical fashion, he's interrupted by Ed Harrison and drug away. I wish they could have he could have had 2 seconds to explain the entire situation, but the set piece that follows was too perfect to pass up. It's his appearance on the actual Ed Harrison show, and he sings the song, What Can You Do With a General?
What can you do with a general when he stops being a general? Oh, what can you do with a general who retires?
Which he dedicates to Waverly, which basically laments the fact that even if he's old, he's useless, he's still a hero, and he's still important to all of us. Brianne, what do you think of this very emotional song?
I found this song to not be, I don't know, it's not necessarily my favorite song, but I like how it was used in terms of, him being on the show, and then her seeing the show, Rosemary Clooney's character, and for her to come to this realization that, it wasn't what she thought it was, because of that dumb housekeeper that had to listen in on some conversations. How dare she?
Keeping Tom, it's stupid, yeah. And I feel like I agree with you. The song has a good message, but the beat and the instrumentation kind of feel like it's a little too, I don't know, it doesn't mesh with what is being said with the lyrics. Does that make sense? It doesn't have that kind of, it feels like the Old Man song, like it sounds like a marching anthem when it really shouldn't. And that docks at some points from me. I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10 just because it has a good message, but I don't think the instrumentation does it justice like it kind of should. The arrangement is off for me. What are your thoughts on What Can You Do With a General? Your rating.
So my rating is a 7 out of 10. So yeah, it's one of my lower ones. I also like the part where not just, him going there and her having that realization as to, she was wrong or she thought wrong. But also when they're trying to keep the general away from the television, because he always watches the Ed Harrison
slapstick
show.
Was,
yeah.
The thing with
I liked it.
Oh, you liked it? You're like,
yeah.
I'm not huge on slapstick, so I wish it was kind of more clever than just a broken ankle. I mean, a bruised ankle down the steps. But you know what? It's funny. It's cute. It's a Christmas movie. It fits the theme. I can forgive it. It's also the 50s. But yeah, and then after he promotes it on the Ed Harrison show, the hotel then begins to bloom. and the success comes in like everybody wanted. And Waverly is getting ready to enter the hotel. And when he does, he is greeted by a huge, rousing reprise from all his surviving men from that opening sequence where we heard this song before. We get the reprise of The Old Man, which is rousing, makes you feel really good, and it's very well placed. It's my favorite sequence in the movie.
We'll follow the old man wherever he wants to go, long as he wants to go, opposite to the foe. We'll stay with the old man wherever he wants to stay, long as he stays away from the battle fray. Because we love him, especially when he keeps us on the ball. And we'll tell the kiddies we answer duty's call, with the grandest son of a soldier of them all.
Well, I personally, as far, it's hard to say because I like the lead up to this. I like the idea of, this is the opening night of their show. The hotel is packed. He has no idea that, all these people are there for him. I like that they also lead up to, all your suits have been sent out to be dry cleaned. All you have is your army general garb. So you have to wear this. And he's like, I don't want to wear that, which, so I liked the way that it worked up and it leaded up to this moment of him walking through and seeing all these people. The reprise for me is still just a 7 out of 10, but because I just don't, the song itself is not nothing incredible.
The song itself, I like this. Personally, I love the song itself. But, you do have to question how all those members of the army knew all that specific choreography and how much they rehearsed it. It's questions that you put in your mind that you really shouldn't, but it's hilarious to think about.
And it works for me, and I give this a 10 out of 10.
And then we get into the finale, the big show finale of the movie, which, again, this is where the movie really feels like it's a stage show. Like, this ending sequence just feels like it's a play. It just feels like a play you're watching on the screen. And you get introduced to what the finale numbers of the actual show are, which are Gee, I Wish I Were Back in the Army, and then the reprise that everybody remembers. But I'm going to go with Gee, I Wish We Were Back in the Army first. This song is extremely catchy.
Gee, I wish I was back in the army. The army wasn't really bad at all. 3 meals a day, 3 for which you didn't pay. Uniforms for winter, spring, and fall.
And I really like how it built. You need a strong song to end before you end on the softer song White Christmas. And this does it really well. Sticks in your head, and it brings all 4 of the main cast members together to sing like in snow. Something that I feel like I wish we saw more of in this movie. But because it's only the second time you hear them singing together, it makes it very special.
There's a lot to be said for the army.
A gal was never lost for company. A million handsome guys with longing in their eyes. And all you had to do was pick the age, the weight, the size.
Oh, gee, I wish I was back in the army.
This one has a lot of set pieces that I like. I like when they bring up that, I don't even know what it is. It looks like they're different people, and it's like he's a butcher, and then there's
the fat
the
suits.
woman
The
shopping.
fat suits
Yes,
is fantastic.
Hilarious. I love that set piece. I love the part about the women and their role in the army, because I think that's interesting too. And if you look at how this is listed in terms of singers, it says like Crosby, Kaye, Clooney, and Stevens. So I don't know the first name of Stevens, but that's the person who's singing for Vera Ellen.
Brianne is referring to the great Trudy Stevens.
This song really, it feels like one of those songs you hear in an ad for the army, and it has that quality.
Sure.
It's very catchy, sticks with you, and I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. What are you giving this, Brianne?
I also gave it an 8 out of 10.
Wow, we're on the same wavelength. All right, and then you get into, I would say this is probably one of the most famous sequences in all of Christmas cinema. The finale of White Christmas, where they discover that this snow that they had been anticipating since the snow song finally is coming down. And pretty much do a curtain call with everybody singing White Christmas together by a Christmas tree.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know.
Again, I want to know where the kids came from and like when they got their direction. There's certain things that you're like, what? But I love that they lift the, I would say barn door. I don't know.
Yeah, the
they
barn
lift
doors
the
come
like
out.
back barn door so that you can see that there's all this snow. But at the same time, it's like if it just started snowing, you wouldn't have all this snow on the ground. Like you have to suspend some disbelief, right?
You do it
'Cause,
throughout
like,
the movie.
there's no way, but that's okay. So I do like that. I like that there's like the little relationship interludes behind the tree and giving of presents and stuff like that.
The little
So
horse, yeah.
mhm.
And they
Really
both,
enjoy this.
the both couples kiss at the same time, and then they cut back
Right.
into the finale. It's very cute, and you know what? There's not much more you can ask for a 1950s finale of a musical than this. And one has to wonder, like you said, it's not just if the snow was on the ground. What that finale would have looked like if it wasn't snowing at all. Would they just not have had that set piece in the background open up to just a field? Yeah, so
I don't think they were going to open it at all. They would just leave it closed.
It was very coordinated, and you know what? Great finale, and I'm giving that sucker 10 out of 10. Gotta give it to it.
I also give it a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10s around the board for that finale. And that actually ends the film. So what we are going to do now, Brianne, is we are going to rank each song from worst to best. Worst using, I'm using the term worst very loosely because there's nothing bad in
How about
the
you
soundtrack.
say lowest to highest?
Yeah, lowest to highest. That's probably better for this instance. Because nothing's terrible. Nothing is terrible at all. Just some things work better than others. And I'm actually going to let you go first, Brianne.
Okay. I put the reprise of each one with the original. So in my ranking, they are together.
Okay, cool.
All right. So from the bottom, I go with Abraham, followed by The Old Man. Then the medley of Heatwave, Let Me Sing and I'm Happy, Blue Skies. What Can You Do with a General? Gee, I Wish I Was Back in the Army. The Minstrel Number with I'd Rather See a Minstrel Show, Mr. Bones, and Mandy. Count Your Blessings Instead of Sheep. The Best Things Happen While You're Dancing. Choreography. Snow. Sisters. Love You Didn't Do Right by Me, and White Christmas.
Awesome. What's going to be great is our lists are different, but I feel like we both think the movie is as good as the other. It's fantastic. My ranking goes as such. I did change my mind. At the lowest, I am going to put Abraham, along with Choreography. Again, both songs kind of to me. Then I have The Best Things Happen When You Dance reprise. Then I have the medley montage of Heatwave, Let Me Sing and I'm Happy, Blue Skies. Then the Minstrel Show medley. Then Gee, I Wish I Was Back in the Army. Then What Can You Do with a General? Then Love You Didn't Do Right by Me. The rest of this is really close. Then Snow, The Old Man, Count Your Blessings Instead of Sheep, Sisters, the funny ass reprise, White Christmas, the reprise, Sisters, The Old Man reprise, and White Christmas. So overall, being as we rated 17 tracks out of 10, you times 17 by 10 and that gives you 170. When you add up my scores add up to a total of 147.5 out of 170. That equates to 86%. Brianne had in total 142 points out of a possible 170, and that equates to 83%. When you add 170 plus 170, you get 340. And when you add my score and Brianne's score, you get 289.5. 289.5 divided by 340
equates to 85%. And thus, myself and Brianne highly, highly, highly recommend that you download not just the movie soundtrack, but the Rosemary Clooney White Christmas soundtrack.
I also, and you did not do this, but I also ranked the songs in terms of dance choreography.
Ooh, what do you?
So
let's hear this.
I only did a few because not every one of them has like full choreography to it. So my favorite is choreography, followed by minstrel number. I'd rather see a minstrel show, Mr. Bones and Mandy, followed by Abraham. Then the best things happen while you're dancing, and lastly, love you didn't do right by me.
Exactly.
So
the choreography in this movie cannot be underestimated. It's fantastic. And it's very well blocked and directed. Although I have problems with how choreography and the minstrel show run pacing wise with the movie, the choreography is fantastic, and your ratings, I actually agree with those. I would agree with those 110%. So, Brianne, overall, what are your thoughts on White Christmas before we sign out?
Overall, my thoughts on White Christmas. Well, I love this movie. My daughter is named Waverly, which is not because of this movie, but when I was in labor with her, this movie was on TV because she's born in December. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's General Waverly. And my daughter is Waverly. This is amazing. But anyways, that's a little tidbit. But I've loved this musical probably since high school when I was first introduced to it. My sister and I, this is something that we have bonded over the years. I have two older sisters, so the one that's closest in age to me. And we always sing Sisters, and we reference this movie throughout the year. And it's something that I watch more than just on Christmas. And again, it is my favorite musical, and it's my top 3 film of all time. So it's just something that has been in my heart for a long time. And I can't wait to have the opportunity to show it to my kids, because they're just not at the right age right now to appreciate and be able to sit as long to watch it, but maybe in a few years.
Because overall for me, I echo those statements. The movie is a great movie, just as a film in general. It doesn't have to be watched at Christmas. This is a good Veterans Day movie. You could watch this on Memorial Day or Veterans Day or any situation. It works because the Christmas themes aren't really as prevalent as, even though Christmas is in the damn title. It's still even though there are a few issues I have with some of the pacing of some songs and where they're placed, the story is great. It's very theatrical. And what I look for in a musical is if it translates to stage, because a good musical should translate well to stage. That's the problem I've had with something like La La Land, for example, which kind of doesn't have that kind of theatrical motif you really want in your movie musical. And it kind of threw me off with that. But this song, this musical in its entirety is built for stage, made for stage, and makes you feel like you're watching a play. And you can't ask much more than that from a Christmas movie or something that makes you feel good. Because nothing feels better than sitting in a theater with a crowd of people watching something that's fantastic. So, all right, Brianne, that does it for our show. Brianne, where can people find you online?
Online, you can find me all day, every day at Miss Movies on Twitter, Miss_Movies on Instagram, and MissMovies.net for everything that you would like to know.
Oh, cool. Awesome. That's your website?
That's my website.
Cool. I will put that actually in the layout too. So, cool. Awesome. You can find me on Twitter at ChrisClark8788. Those numbers mean nothing. You can find me on YouTube at No Man's Land Entertainment. Bada bing, bada boom. Yep, those numbers mean nothing. Thank you guys so much. Take care and keep rocking.